Alright, so that's... I don't remember which state we're in, we're gonna mention it later. Oh, there you go, Orick, California. So again, Hale has to move... Again, much like with the first game, it's gonna be a sort of a trip moving around from state to state.
Echo 1 to command. Proceeding through gray territory. Still no visual on the target. I've located Oscar Company. No survivors on site.
Roger, Echo 1. You're 8 clicks from the target.
Yeah, you can definitely feel the Call of Duty influence with this dialogue too.
Like,
Victor 1, what's the holdup?
part of me wants to try and be fair and say they were trying to do their own thing, but Call of Duty had been around
Look
since
at that, again,
2003.
if you remember how the first game handled military, talking with each other and everything, it was slightly different than this.
Yeah.
I get it also because this is the US military and not the British one, but I don't know. I get it's more influenced by recent trends.
The look
everything.
definitely screams more Call of Duty. I will give you that. Like,
And
look at
also
how he
you get
dressed.
ambushed.
Like, look at how he dresses compared to how he dressed in the first game. Again, maybe
Also,
that's
fun fact that you can remember for later. Depending on what point in the story you have, Hale in the title screen, Hale's appearance will actually change, reflecting what he's wearing and how he looks.
Let me
That's
guess,
pretty
more
cute,
battle damage as the game goes on.
Potentially, but also the different outfits that he has.
Oh, he gets different outfits.
They're not very much different, but they're noticeable in what they do. And yeah, first section, don't think that this is a scripted event because of all the explosions and the fog. You basically get swarmed constantly by a lot of enemies. Luckily, you have a new weapon in this. Actually, specific new one. The Marksman. This can be a sniper rifle was first recovered by Spectre Team Corporal Marshal Webb in Kirkwall, Scotland, and modified for human use by SERPA researcher and development. For a single ion burst at great distances, and has a significantly higher rate of fire than any human sniper rifle to date. The Marksman also utilizes a secondary mode which disperses a small autonomous drone that electrifies nearby enemies. Press R1 to use the scope to fire, press R1 to deploy a drone, press R2. So it's an alternative to your sniper to the far eye, to the sniper rifle. It doesn't have the slow mechanic, but it does slightly less damage, but it's good for body shot. It fires like 3 rapid bullets, and can deploy a sort of a turret that is this electric drone that zap constantly everything in front of him and distracts enemies. So it has its use. It's again not super creative as a weapon, but it's cool enough. And yeah, this section is still dickish because the enemies are still constantly firing you. You're supposed to take the bomb rush, but you have to basically try to guess where the enemy is. Like, I dread what Shiri will be able to see in a section like this one. There you go. Sorry, but like I said, the Magnum is very situational. I'm not gonna use it all that much. After this initial folk section, you're actually a bit better to go, thankfully. It's just that, again, the game... The devs wanted to try to create more iconic set pieces. In this case, your convoy gets stopped and you're immersed in this fog of war with everything exploding left or right. So I get what they were trying to do. Alright. I think these are the last ones on the road and then we can move on. Because unfortunately we can... Yeah, that's another thing. Again, it's technically a bit early to say, but for some reason, but I don't understand why, compared to the previous game, you don't have a vehicle section in the campaign. I think they're still present in the multiplayer, they were still present in multiplayer, but you don't really get a section in the single-player campaign where you actually pilot a vehicle. And I don't really understand why they removed that. Yeah, it is weird.
Very weird. To give this game another do here, I am liking the level aesthetic variety. Again, like...
It's one type of grenade.
Admittedly, back in the original game, I get it. We were mainly doing it across jolly old Britain, but I'll admit, a lot of the levels did feel a bit similar in aesthetic. Not to say that we didn't have different
like
areas.
I said, not helped by the grayness,
Yeah.
So this is the game that takes the family-friendly characters and turns them into the names of the weapons that I keep joking about.
Not really.
Cute.
What next? Are we going to come across a video game where
Okay.
a guy bonds with a machine gun and he names it Clank?
I'm not gonna say anything, but you're not even close. No, you're not close, Lips. But there's another franchise that does that. Something completely extraneous to that. Anyway, here's for another kind of set piece, partially inspired by the Predator movies. Now you're with this fog. Okay, it's very quiet, almost too quiet, because of this, the chameleon.
Oh god.
It's an enemy. It's an enemy that is invisible most of the time, but then starts bomb rushing you. You have to rely on a few things in order to tell its location. One, if it's nearby, you're gonna hear the sound of an owl, the call of an owl, the hoot hoot kind of thing. Second, when the chameleon spots you, it will try to bomb rush at you. Your controller will vibrate accordingly to its footsteps, like a boom, boom, boom type of vibration. So unfortunately, if it's a case where you don't like the vibration, you normally turn it off like Pedro, you're kind of screwed.
That doesn't sound like a good use of the vibration. At
However, the other important thing, when it's getting close to you, the cloaking device will slightly malfunction or start to fizzle up, and it will become very noticeable. So if you have basically a fraction of a second for a fight or flight response to actually perform a shot. The shotgun is your best friend in this situation, but even with a bullseye, even on normal difficulty like I'm here, you should be able to actually repel them effectively. You will be able to see, but the problem is that the game. Here we go. There you go, like this. The game doesn't really. The game doesn't really have this much of a way of foreshadowing aside from this initial, case. Basically, you need to keep your ears clean. Basically, for this, because in a couple of sections where chameleon will be present. You will not be able to recognize that unless you actually are able to recognize the owl call that they emit, like I said.
I was about to ask, why an owl?
Because they're introducing this level, which is forest-wise, and they want to replicate, like I said, the Predator. So having a sort of a thing to, camouflage with the environment. But I guess they forgot to try to give it variety, so every subsequent time it shows up, we just keep that.
So I guess the idea is that they're trying to mimic owls to stay camouflaged.
Yes, it similar is also a way to communicate with the other chimera. It's similar to how in a couple of military tactics, to give a command without revealing your position, you will do a bird call. We have seen it being used, in all type of warfare since medieval times, possibly even before that, So there is some truth in television.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Oh no, the Chimera destroyed the environment. The bastards.
What could they be harnessing our trees for, those monsters?
And yeah, I think I forgot if I specifically mentioned, but just as another warning, the reason why it's very important to kill the chameleon before they reach you is because they count as an insta-kill. No matter the difficulty, if they touch you, you're dead. So, be careful.
Hopefully they go down relatively easy.
And they basically force you into a state of walking slowly in order to not rush too much and avoid, accidentally getting into their range, So it is a way for the game to try to slow down your pace as well.
Are they like, a level-specific enemy, or will we be dealing with them a lot in this game?
Not a lot, but they will be present in this game, sprinkled throughout. Like I said, there is, aside from this initial encounter, there is not that much foreshadowing to them, unfortunately. So you need to be worried, be worried about a section where you don't see any particular enemy nearby, but it gives you, if it gives you the inkling, the vibe that there might be an enemy nearby, chances are it might be the case. You're also not start noticing these pulsating biomasses. It will become more apparent, if not in the next level, the one after. I forgot exactly when it happens. But yes, because this invasion, you know, is doing. Sorry, because this invasion is being done relatively different. Also, country music. Um, because this invasion is done very different, unfortunately, they came in and forgo the conversion method using the centers that they had in Europe, and instead of do a more rough approach.
Ooh.
You'll be able to see. Like I said, the Chimera, despite being a species that work basically, as far as we know, mostly on instinct, the way they dehumanize, the people in all possible senses of the way, physical, emotional, on a basic level, even, it generally does make them feel like a big threat for humanity as a whole. Again, not just for survival, but also for the basic, life, basically. Anyway, we're just also to mention before, in case you might want to notice them. Since it has happened already starting from the previous part, again, Hale's interaction with his teammate will mostly be via radio. So keep an eye out on the subs or, with your ear, because most of the characterization of your teammates, will happen with these dialogues, then talking about their lives, Hale responding to them. Like in this case, Warner. Warner is your tech guy, for example. Capelli is the hot-headed muscle guy, basically, and Hawthorne is sort of a middleman. Blake is basically your team leader instead. So one, unfortunately, is not as properly developed as something. Another video game that might have the companions interacting more directly with each other. Like I said, it certainly is a step up compared to the previous game, because at the very least Hale is interacting with someone. There are more familiar characters occurring from, instead of just Cartwright and the captain that talked about in the briefing of the levels. So there is something that also includes also Dr. Malikov, for example. And it will have occasions in which you will actually be properly physically accompanied by your team members. It's just that while being a step up from the previous game, it's still not reaching there. And let me tell you, 3 does not improve that much on that aspect. I already warned you on that.
Right.
I will take the time later to explain also about these characters, because like I said, that's stuff that's where the details tend to be mentioned either in the data log or in those wonderful side materials. But go on, Jova, briefly for that.
Going pros and cons, would you say that overall, at the very least, the characters, including our entourage, are arguably more memorable than in the first game, save for Cartwright?
Yeah, so that's what I basically just said. Like I said, they're not the most Shakespearean stuff. I've seen these type of characters, a lot, somewhere else. But they do the job they're supposed to do. Again, like I said, could be better, but it's technically a better attempt than the first game. And again, you can definitely see the quality, because TJ Fixman, like I said, while not a flawless writer, is still a very good one when it comes to, having to juggle, a more multiple type of epic. Unfortunately, he was the only writer only for this game, so it's not a case that he had a lot of pre-planning. But in order to actually handle things as they were given to him, I think he did a decent enough job overall. You have to wait until the game is over for me to mention more about it, because again, we're still relatively early on, and I don't know actually who wrote the final game, but I'll need to check. But like I said, this is technically, out of the main 3, this is the one that I definitely like the story the most, because 3 is technically better than the first, but there is stuff that I really, really so do not care about.
I won't ask too many details on it, since we'll probably see well enough when we get to that, but
Yeah.
I wonder, is it similar to, again, the feeling I get with this game, 2 steps forward, 1 step back?
Possibly. I can tell... Hold on, I think there's a radio here. Yeah, there you go.
Radio USA, this is Henry Stillman.
Yes.
I do wish that they lowered like the level music when you're close to the radio, so you can better listen to
It's
it.
because ideally it's supposed to be diegetic, ideally.
I look outside my window. I see nothing but the cold still that follows death around like a lost child. And I myself sit in an empty booth, so you'll pardon me if the program suffers from lack of a proper audio engineer. There are bodies scattered about the streets.
He was
beneath
killed
me.
the other day.
Former friends and neighbors now lying in storm
This is
drains.
not to be confused with Orson Welles' very famous alien radio hoax.
Though I can't imagine they're trying to,
Yesterday,
be inspired by that.
they were very much
The irony is that it's real this time. And yes, in case you're wondering from that Simpsons Treehouse gag, that actually did happen with Orson Welles.
Though, from what I've heard, again, Dominic Noble did one of his videos about the World Awards, and from what he could manage to find, apparently the whole thing about people believing and being scared by it's mostly over-exaggerated. It did happen to some cases, but not as much as we were led to believe.
It did get to a point, I believe, of some legal issues, but, I don't think it got too much to that point.
pulling them in and wrapping them in these
Although there was widespread outrage expressed in the media.
and I watched her. And she watched me too. Waiting for me to act.
I can't tell if this is part of a drama show that they're doing to try and keep people's spirits up, or if the guy is legit cracking on the radio.
Instead, I did nothing.
Yeah, he is, because he's basically stuck there.
I stood there.
And he basically mentioned that his beloved one, was left behind.
God, it almost sounds like she was mutated before his eyes, too.
Broadcasting from the city of brotherly love. Radio USA. Philadelphia.
Well,
This
that
is
happened.
this is Radio City, USA.
The only way it could be better is if they played the happy jingle afterwards.
I think
After he was killed.
It's not more a case of the happy jingle, but remember, the radio hosts back then did have still this kind of thing of putting up music when they were done talking or in between stuff. So a lot of times after some of those speeches, the guy will just put up a disc in order because maybe he cannot, he's too desperate to talk, anymore. So there is that too.
Oh, I did
So there you go.
hear-
As you can see, the Chimera is still using spires to attack. It's just a matter of it again. They're not having the occasion to use conversion centers. Go on, Jonah.
I mentioned the happy jingle because I did actually hear a jingle that came before the guys started talking.
Yes,
So,
it's mostly basically just him doing it. As he mentioned in the broadcast, he doesn't even have a sound engineer anymore.
well, kudos to the guy for holding out that long, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Alright, let's try to be a bit cheesy with this Titan.
Also, sounds like the music's just repeating itself.
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned that, but one technically a bit better than the first game. The music is still nothing to write home about. Like I said, not even something that I would describe as bad. It's just nothing. I really so don't care about it.
It's weird because as Gears of War 2 demonstrated, usually the best course of action in terms of having a score for a game like this is to hone in on the military hero vibe. Try to go into again like I said, Gears of War 2's theme by Steve Jablonski is actually fantastic, and I feel like something like a Gears of War 2-ish attempt would have fit this fine.
The thing is that both the first game and this, and to an extent also 3 will have it, do have something similar, as in, trying to play up basically the average, orchestral, military type of theme. It's just that they don't manage to be as memorable. Like, this franchise doesn't really have something that could be described as a leitmotif, you know?
Again, I feel like
and I think that's kind of part of a problem.
I think that describes my feelings on the franchise as a whole. It has a lot of neat, even great things, but I don't.
Let me just mention this. The Augur is back, and with a genuine improvement. First, let me actually read the description. This Chimeran assault rifle fires heavy blast of radiation capable of tunneling through soil matter. The Mark II upgrades employs the use of a transparent particle visor, which reveals the thermal signature of any hostile entity, creating the illusion of seeing through walls. And the benefit to the Augur is its unmatched shield technology, which can temporarily resist anything with the exception of Augur rounds. To fire radiation sabots, press R1. To deploy force barrier, press R2. So yeah, listening to the feedback of the people that were complaining about the Augur in the previous game, now when you actually aim with it, you're able to see the enemies that you're supposed to shoot from behind the cover. So, you know, they actually managed to make the Augur actually useful. Hooray!
Again, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I appreciate those 2 steps.
Go on, Drova.
But like I was saying, I think that you pretty much helped describe how I feel about this franchise so far. There are good, even great things in this franchise, but I don't feel like it's yet come together to form, you know, a consistent picture that keeps me coming back. Like, let me put it like this. Imagine if for the Crash Bandicoot series they took, say, some of the best aspects from one of the games and then scattered them across the first 3 games, to the point where it would feel like, oh, each one has some neat stuff, but each installment also feels like it has something holding it back, and well, it doesn't feel the most consistent in that regard either. Granted,
oh boy, sorry, give me a second. Hellfire turrets. Basically, the enemy occasionally built up these things, which, as you can see, basically are the big fuck you big fuck you turrets that basically tells you if you dare step into the zone, we're gonna basically insta-jib you.
As early as like the 3rd level.
So basically, what you're supposed to do is to play smart and try to go around them in order to sabotage them and, you know, allow you to clear the area. Go on.
I do notice also that levels don't end incredibly quickly. That's a change.
No, like I said, each of the location, like in this case California or previously San Francisco, they are basically more big areas that will comprise the equivalent of 3 of these small levels from before. Basically, we don't have any interruption anymore. You also might have noticed, thanks to the notifications in the bottom left corner, that checkpoints are much more generous this time around, and they don't instead, you know, set you back way back in the level, you know, if you fail it. So again, even if I'm not really showcasing all the deaths that I've actually suffered, because yes, those still are a thing, the game is genuinely more generous this time around.
So again, it's weird in the sense that, again, there's stuff that I like from both games, but I'll admit, putting these 2 games back to back, it really does show that they have very different feels to them, to the point where I could arguably see 2 camps easily forming as a result of, hey, the first game had it right, no, the second game had it right, and depending on what you prefer in a game, I could see these 2 being different enough.
Don't worry about this, drone. Warner reprogrammed it to be on our side, so it will help us.
And from what you've hinted about in the 3rd game, I'm guessing the changes will not end here either. Like,
well, again, it's mostly for you to judge about the plot. I can tell you that gameplay-wise, 3 still is technically the best, at least unquestionably to me. It's definitely the most fun to play with.
Would you say
gameplay?
Would you say 3 at least feels consistent enough with 1 or 2 though? Like, because 2 feels like
you will have to see. Also, good ragdoll, I guess.
Yeah.
Again, you will have to see for yourself, because, like you said, the only thing that I can tell you personally is that favorite plot 2, favorite gameplay 3. I still am technically to properly play Retribution, so I will be able to tell after I'm done with it when it comes to that. But from the little that I see, I'm genuinely still liking it for what they wanted to do.
And would you say that 1 is your favorite presentation?
No, I think 3 actually has my favorite presentation. It's really the plot that I think it's a step down. Yes, Pedro?
No, Gears 2 and 3, Gears 2 in particular, and 3 followed through the same leitmotif. That's when the Gears of War 2 theme became the leitmotif of Gears, and then 4 and 5 fucked that up, but, well...
To be fair to 4 and 5, they were trying to be a different era, so I don't entirely blame them for trying to change that up. Now, granted, I wish
Anyway,
that it
the
had actually been
important
good.
the important part here.
C4 in the convoy.
There you go. What Hale has an idea. He's asking the Warner and the rest of his team. Yeah, and Capelli connected the 2+2. We're gonna try to invade that ship.
Makey somebody just put something in and something and fly into it. When did I get this thing?
Aren't you going to make an Independence Day joke?
Like I said, it's not that much, but you can tell that the interaction that Hale has with his buddies, they're trying to, make it relatively witty without having to exaggerate or having quips every 2 seconds. So I appreciate that.
To quote another Insomniac game, dude, relax. It's a fucking video game.
Okay.
There you go. I guess this is a good time. Yes, I guess it is a good time for me to mention. So let's start by talking about what happened with the book. Yeah, there you go. The Gathering Storm. Like I said, written by William C. Dietz, which will write another novel that I will not mention right now because it's not important for the purpose of this game. Because yes, we're not technically done with the side material, unfortunately. That it's supposed to be sent right after the event in Iceland in the first the prologue level, but before the 2-year time skip. It basically, the best thing that I can say is that it acknowledges the events of Retribution that have happened, which is called Operation Overstrike. Which I will not say much because that is actually what happens in that game. So it's not something that I will have to really narrate you because we will see going on. It tells about Hale actually holding the ranks of second lieutenant and meeting the other members of his team. Althorn, Warner, Capelli, and eventually forming more of a bromance also with Blake. Hale has a sort of a hero status because of what he did in the UK, but despite him trying to keep a low profile, but he really cannot avoid it because, again, war is about to arrive in the US. If I remember correctly, the entirety of Hale's, biological family is actually killed by the time he gets back to the US, unfortunately. And there is a section where he tries to go back to his home, basically, to see how things are up. But here's the most stupid shit, Jova. You're gonna love this.
Yeah.
Has any of you seen? Again, I'm about to ask something relatively obscure. Has any of you seen the movie Evolution? It's an early 2000 movie, sci-fi movie. It's mostly from the director of Ghostbusters, trying to recreate something like that, but with an alien invasion.
Sadly, no.
Okay, to make a long story short, too late. There is an alien invasion that is similar to what the Chimeran do. The thing that they use against them is, anti-dandruff shampoo, because it contains selenium, which is basically poison to the alien. Don't ask, the details are even stupider when said in the movie. The point is that the movie spawned an animated series, which I happened to see, actually, believe it or not. And in that series, they do the... You know what I said about, at the very least, Gears did not have a stupid human villain that tried to ally with the Locust in order to try to save themselves or taking advantage of the situation. Well, guess what they did in the Resistance book? The President of the United States tried to negotiate with Daedalus and says that if the Chimeras would spare the United States, they will be allowed to keep the rest of the world.
Right.
As you can imagine, Daedalus is... Again, I don't remember if it's a case where Daedalus literally laughs in his face or something, or basically says yes to buy time, but he probably is not giving a shit, But as you can imagine, this is very stupid, and Hale ends up shooting the president as a result.
Also, does Daedalus get dealt with in the comics? Hold on,
Jova, go on, Dweebs.
They should rename the song "The Man Who Tried to Sell the World."
Yes, Jova.
So does Daedalus also get dealt with in the comics?
No, first of all, that's not the comic. That's the novel that I
The
mentioned, the
novel,
book.
novel.
No, because again, it's something that we have to deal with in this game. Thank God, we're not doing again. It's the infamous, tying comic that actually deals with one of the villains from the first game. Yeah, that still baffles me to this day.
Oh, don't even get me started on Project Crosso. I mean, sorry, Assassin's Creed, where, I kid you not, the main villainess that we've built up across 3 games gets dealt with in a comic book tie-in.
And even poorly at that, apparently. But anyway, the point being, again, basically the book is there to tell you that because of these events, Hale is now, by the time we're gaining the 2 years skip, Hale is already buddy-buddy with his teammates, and the chain of command of the US is basically broken, and almost every man is for themselves, with the military holding a sort of a bit of an authority, not necessarily martial law, but because there's not too much of an organization, but they're trying to hold the line, and SERP is basically having a bit of a carte blanche as a result. Like I said, I basically just summed it up to you. You can read more detail actually on the Resistance Wiki. Maybe I'll leave a link in the description for that. But basically, there's enough material in the book that I would argue will be enough to make a complete, extra spin-off game. And again, I don't know if that actually, happened because it's stuff that they wanted to include in the game, but they ran out of time or did not have enough of a budget to put, so they had to basically repurpose. I don't know. Again, having to find information about this franchise is also relatively not as easy as it can be. I kind of wish that Muscle did a bit of, his magic about some of his franchise, who probably would help.
If my interpretation is correct, again, back when it came out, it could have been the bee's knees, but nowadays it's not as bigly
also put it this
regarded,
way,
so it's not as easy to find stuff
the
on it.
multiplayer is also beloved. It was actually very beloved. But if I remember correctly, people played more the multiplayer of Killzone instead. The Killzone games, at least as far as I remember. Okay. Basically, we need to split up and set up charges in order to destroy the ship from the inside. Classic.
Of course, Hale, being the renegade, will go on his own.
It's more of a case where everyone is splitting up, but the others are just taking an elevator on their own.
Neat. Hey, this brings back memories from the first game.
Sorta, but as you can see, this is the internal of a spaceship rather than, the tower. Oh! Now call, you know what that means.
Uh-oh.
Keep your eyes peeled, basically, because we're basically this. There you go. The screen also shakes a bit. So again, the game technically blindsides you with the presence of the chameleons, but to be fair, it does a good job in trying to give you those extra few seconds of reaction time. Again, unfortunately, if you're not good with reflexes, you're kind of toast. And it becomes Tranello. Also, the leapers are back. Joy.
I was gonna say, at least the game doesn't blindside you with the chameleons while you're battling other.
No. Thankfully, it's not really a thing that happens.
That's good.
Like I said, it also helps that when you see, I'm having already the inside of when you see, a section that feels like it should have enemies, but it doesn't. I try to be a bit more cautious.
Also, I do like that detail that if you look closely enough, you can notice some outlines even while they're camouflaged.
Yes. Like I said, when they come close to you, their camouflage fizzles a bit, which is your last potential chance, flight or fight response.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I appreciate what they did, even if it's potentially dickish to people who do not have the same kind of reaction time.
It is admittedly one of those circumstances where, unfortunately, as far as I know, there's no way to always be accommodating for every single person. I guess unless they put in a slow motion mode.
Potentially a slow mo. Again, it's a bit similar. Some games like Cabrera Dangerous Hands 2013 have something of a similar gimmick where when a beast is pouncing on you, the game goes slow-mo and actually gives you the time to actually shoot. It's not super generous, but it is something. I guess they could have done something similar to that. Not even necessarily with a QTE, but giving you the time to aim, definitely.
And I guess just so that
And
people...
again, because we're mostly talking over it, let me also reiterate. I actually like the dialogue that your teammates do give it to you. You can tell, for example, from this section alone, you can definitely tell by hearing and reading what the characters are doing. You can kind of sort of pinpoint their location, understanding what they're doing, and their own mini story arcs that they're having. Capelli getting into troubles on his own because he, as a being a hotheaded, he rushed into a nest of lepers, for example. It's small stuff, but I think it works out despite it being limited. So again, something that can be more appreciated compared to the previous game.
It does also make for some nice interactions, also helped by, thankfully, Hale talking more than he did in the previous game.
It's still not a lot. Again, like I said, despite having a solid foundation, technically, these games, when it comes to the plot of the single players, are not as grandiose as you probably wanted them to be, especially compared to the direct equivalent that we mentioned time and time again, the Gears original trilogy, for example. So it's an unfortunate thing.
Regarding slow mode, I guess technically you do slow down when you use the sights on certain guns, like right there.
Only the far eye, but keep in mind the game suggests you that to use the shotgun instead when it comes to the chameleons. And that one, is more of a direct kind of thing to do. So you need to watch out. Also, how cute! They're trying to shoot me.
You're trying to shoot me
thing,
for
but...
your own floor, which you should know is impervious.
Thankfully, none of them use an auger, otherwise they probably would have been toasted. But again, it's a nice bit of vision. Oh, now we're starting to have the auger.
I'll just take that.
Again, it would have been nice if I had all the weapons at my disposal and I could collect them, but since I had to pick and choose, I'm not sure if I want to pick the auger or hit the bullseye, because again, when you can only carry 2 weapons at a time, it inevitably creates a tier list of weapons, which basically means that you have to decide which one to keep and which one to actually discard, which it's kind of a shame because it means there are some weapons that you will probably almost never pick up as a result. Or instead, having all of them at the same time, sure, there are still some that you will not use, but it will give you at least the benefit of a choice.
I feel like Halo works better with the concept of 2 weapons, if only because A, it's to show off how awesome Master Chief is, and B, at the very least, it feels like it's centered more so around the idea of the 2-weapon system, whereas this just feels like a game playing catch-up, and it's like, oh yeah, hey, this popular series is doing a 2-weapon system. Let's do that too, even though our series obviously works better with multiple weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Basically.
Oops. Oops. Looks like I just got dropped.
You don't mind me dropping in.
Oops. Did I do that?
Yes.
See,
I nearly died, but I'm okay now.
Again, like you said, the little things, like in this case, Hale just falls into a thing, and when they ask him, he's just, oh, I just took a shortcut. Again, it's a minor thing, technically a small quip when you get down to it, but it's not too intrusive, and it works just fine. It gives more personality to the character more than anything. So that's actually pretty neat.
Yeah.
Also, as you can see, the ogre, like I said, now highlights the enemies, behind cover, which, like I said, is a huge improvement that helps you, shooting properly, the motherfuckers, and knowing where to aim. It's not technically a hit scan weapon, but your bullets are technically faster than the ones that the enemy use. For those who don't know, it's not really a term that is prevalent these days because when it comes to having 3D models of a weapon, only sniper rifle technically count as that, and even so, not as automatically as that. It's more prevalent in old FPS. A hit scan means when it comes to a weapon that as soon as you press the firing button, it instantly connects with the target rather than having a projectile with a trajectory and at some kind of delay, whether it's a millisecond or not. So in old FPSs, it was mostly an arsenal that was given to the player, but you needed to watch out when an enemy actually had one of that. because those are generally called hit scan enemies. So, while not technically, being replicated in modern games because of the factors that I mentioned, there's still some degree of presence of those. And again, when you tend to use the auger, you almost reach that kind of level.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, elevator, take me home.
Hello? Anyone else? No? Then we should hopefully be good.
In order to place the explosive charge, because we're actually at our recommended place. So let's do it.
Command, I'm at the bridge. The fleet's trajectory takes it straight through the defense
Hale's
perimeter.
take here is interesting. Now that we're getting to hear more for it, it sounds like he's going for the guy who wants to be taken seriously but can't help but give off that dorky heroic voice.
Get it? Twin Falls. It's like Twin Peaks, but it's the opposite.
It's also because it's David K. David K works best in voicing relatively nerdy characters. Sure, there had been some variety. Like I think you mentioned that he voiced Megatron at some point.
Yeah, he's voiced both Megatron and Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime was for the Transformers animated series. Megatron is in stuff like Beast Wars and the anime series trilogy, or the Unicron trilogy as it's known as.
But he also voiced the major representative of the Celestial in the movie Eternals too, and the fact that he gave him more of a booming voice there, gave him more authority there. So there's that. Also, in case you're wondering, you want to be a smartass? No, the ogre does not pick up the chameleon in while they're cloaked. So get stuffed.
Dang, they really want you to use that shotgun, I guess.
Or even the bullseye. It's just a matter of they want you to be in a specific. There he was. They want you to be in a specific mindset when using them, when actually facing the chameleon.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on.
On we go.
And like I said, there's also still the problem that the first game also had. A lot of times, because of what we mentioned about the score, there are a lot of times where the score is either completely absent or becomes this very minimal ambiental stuff that, while technically working to give tension potentially, it just does not help giving the franchise an identity. Oh. Oh, Capelli. What a rapscallion.
What will we ever do with you?
Also, just to mention, because you only seen briefly in some of the cutscene. Oh, and now you have a 2-minute countdown to get out. No pressure. Someone had fun playing Metroid.
Were they playing Metroid while also watching 24? Because the countdown clock font kind of looks pretty similar to the font they use for the countdown.
Also, everything is exploding left and right. I barely can see shit. Jesus. But here's the thing: you'll be able to see more as the game goes on. But capelli is as a word in my country, it means hair or haircut. But the thing is that Capelli in this game, at least, he wears a beanie on his head, kind of like Parappa the Rapper. So his haircut is not visible.
Of course. There's a beanie. Even in what is, I guess, the representative for World War II times, they do manage to get a beanie in this shooter.
I mean, to be fair, I guess, okay, I don't know what kind of style is supposed to represent, if any, but I thought that the beanie was more common among, let's say, fishermen, for example. I mean, because let me tell you, that one does not really give, is part of a, Capelli doesn't really have too much of a gimmick outside of being a hothead. You have to think of him as it's sort of the equivalent of Val Kilmer's character in Red Planet, and those whips, by that I don't mean that he throws gym equipment to the others, don't worry. Also, when the hell is that door gonna open? Almost 20 seconds left.
Not until you win the war. That's right, the entire war is fought here in this one room.
Oh,
Apparently.
thank God. Move, move, move!
It's good, and it's... Oh!
Yeah, basically we basically get to the chopper, the ship, and actually get away before it explodes.
You sunk my alien battleship!
The reason why I basically cut in at this point is because the next level is gonna reprise with our character still piloting the banner ship and actually flying, to our next location. So see you for when that happens.
See you then.
So yeah,
Yeah.